Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversations powered by Lions Club of Mumbai Shining, the Emerging India Forum TEIF, IBG, Indian Business Group. Today's theme is My Business, My Profession, My Growth. And today's topic is 10 things people do not know about inner power and energy. So today's speaker is Mr. Sandeep Nath. He's a Qigong instructor, Reiki master, mindfulness trainer, a limitless living guide, and a coach for enhancing. Welcome aboard today with us, Mr. Sandeep. How is it going?
So cool. Thank you so much for that very neat introduction, Mansoor. Lovely. Everything's going great and likely to get even better over the next 40 minutes.
Definitely, sir. All right, so let's begin with the first question. So we need some inner like experience from your end. What is inner power? What is energy? And how does this all sum up in like a working professional life or into a person who's into the corporate living?
Terrific. It's great to contextualize this subject, which sounds rather esoteric to me also. And 15 years back, I would have really wondered, what is this guy talking about? Why should I be listening at all? Right. And that's because 15 years ago, I was running this corporate company. I was deeply entrenched with clients and stress and cash flow and all sorts of issues that an entrepreneur faces. And the last thing that I wanted to know about was something to do with inner power or, good Lord, I mean, cash is power, right? So that's talk about money. But something very funny happened in those times, Mansoor. I started wondering whether that is it. Is that the big picture? And is that all we are in this rat race for? And thinking about those questions got me started on understanding that there is as much or more that we see outside of us is inside of us. As a race, humanity has got so distracted with gadgets and cars and houses and clothes and things to buy and things to do and even experiences and travel and all of that, which is outside of us, that we have stopped doing what we used to do thousands of years ago, which was traveling inside of us and discovering all those equivalents of gadgets and clothes and things that's happening within. And that search started for me. What exactly happens inside here? And it started, as you might have already figured, through spiritual gurus, the Vedic masters, and I was very fortunate to be connected to a few. And I used to run my company in Hyderabad. So in South India, we have so many great masters around. So Sai Baba was there those days, Sri Sri and Chariji. And I got the good fortune of meeting up with some of them and discovering that there is a connection within, which gives you a power to change the outside. And so much so that by 2010, 3, 4, 5 years of reasonably intense interaction with these masters, even though, running a company, you really don't have time for any sort of inner searches. Right. By 2010, I was feeling so abundant with myself that I actually handed over my companies to the other directors and headed out on the advice of one of these masters to learn from Tibetan lamas in the monasteries of the Himalayas. Spent quite some time there, never looked back at corporate till right now. We'll talk about that later with RENEWALism. But that was my journey. And it took me into villages. I worked about 6 years over there, helping people like women become micro entrepreneurs with solar energy and various other micro entrepreneurial initiatives. And that was my journey. So since we're talking about my business, my profession, my growth, I think just contextualizing that this is where you could be coming from. Any one of you listening in over here today could be coming from there, where it's just one little trigger. Why am I doing what I'm doing? That sets you off on a path that is so gratifying, fulfilling, and like I said, abundant, that you really don't get back to where you were. I haven't got back to corporate, like I said, but let me get you to the next question so that I can eventually come back to corporate.
So when we talk about like spirituality, and so mostly like when everyone who would be ever watching this in the future, everyone has that corporate sector, you go for a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6. And when you talk about them, like for being into like coming to spirituality, or you have to go into like going to the certain kind of peace and stuff, it's kind of hard. Okay, because in everyone's mindset or in that concept, I mean, including mine also, is that, oh, I have to leave everything and I have to just go away to the Himalayas, or I have to go find that peace or something. So how does one like able to yet be at the place where they are, but yet able to find that inner peace?
Fantastic. That is such a wonderful and such a relevant question in these times. And you don't have to leave anything. You really don't have to leave it. I have, when I said it, maybe I said it over dramatically, saying that I handed my companies over and went, because I went on a one-way ticket or as an explorer. But now I'm not an explorer. Now I'm an implorer, and I implore to you that you can find spirituality right where you are by just understanding what the word spirituality is all about. Spirituality is not about a religion. Spirituality is not about a doctrine. Spirituality is not about any sect or sectarianism. Spirituality comes from being spiritual. Clear, simple etymology.
Yes.
Being spiritual comes from the word spirit. The word spirit comes from a basic ingredient of who we are, because we are three things in composite. We recognize two of them very well, and I'm going to share with you these three, and you're going to recognize those two like that.
Okay.
The body,
okay,
the body, the mind,
right.
and the spirit.
The spirit, right.
The body, we are very familiar with. We're totally aware of the body. We're like in the body all the time. The problem happens with the body. We'll cut over here, and our whole day is obsessed with, I can't press the keyboard, so I can't do the report. So my whole day is, gone for a toss. The body overrules everything. It's the bottom of the pyramid, let's say. The middle of the pyramid is the mind. The mind is familiar with, not as much, but let's say if 100 people go to the gym for their body, only 10 people do yoga for their mind, or meditation, right? Fair numbers. And then at the top of the pyramid, but we do understand we have mood swings. We do understand we have happy, sad, this, that. That's a good thing. Yeah. Coffee and conversation has to happen. So the bottom, the middle of the pyramid is the mind. The top, the one that we're least familiar with, is the spirit.
Spirit, right.
And this spirit is pure energy, because we can't see it, because it's not, physically visible or even mentally understandable. Till a few, let's say a century ago, when Einstein put it into a formula, he said energy is equal to mass into c square, which is a constant. So suddenly somebody who was at Einstein's level could understand that all matter is energy, all energy is matter. This cup of mine is energy, this t-shirt is energy, your energy, the laptop is energy, everything's energy. But we don't logically comprehend it that. But this energy, which is pure spirit, is what we sense. And we often disregard the sense. We say, and often we don't understand what we're saying. Give an example. When you're not feeling good, you may use the word, my spirits are down.
Right. It's a very common term for all of us, definitely.
Yes. What did you just say? You just said that your energy was down. Your energy is not capable of lifting your body up. You don't want to get out of the bed. Somebody's in high spirits. The person in high spirits doesn't mean that they're dancing and they're having a very jovial time for any other reason other than the fact that they are powered with high energy right now, which is moving their mind and body into great shape. The pyramid is actually inverted, is all I want to tell you guys in corporate right now.
And it is.
You can, it's inverted. It is the energy layer that's the hugest, which drives everything. The mind still remains the center, and the body will follow orders. The body will follow the spirit. Spirits up, spirits down. Which is why with energy healing modalities, for example, you can heal the mind and the body. I go back to Einstein, who's credited with observation that you cannot solve any problem using the same level of thinking that created the problem. So if it's a physical problem or a mental problem, you need a solution which is higher than that. And there is no solution higher than that, which is why we get stuck with psychologists and psychiatrists, and at the most we get into yoga and meditation, which connects the mind and the body. But or affirmations, which again use the mind. But when we get into areas like Qigong, which is working with energy, you can cure both psychological as well as physiological issues. And that's why we sitting in corporate, doing whatever we're doing, can get spiritually connected when we connect with our energy, when we get an awareness of who we really are. And that is this trinity, and give just equal importance. Okay, make it a cylinder, no pyramids, a cylinder. The energy, the mind, and the body straight. But all three of them with equal importance, and you find your whole world changes.
Right. So let's, as you just said, you left everything, you gave it up to your directors, and you left and you went directly to the Himalayas and you did stuff from there. So then how did the concept occur to you that, okay, this is what I have learned, and I have to get it back to the people who are into the corporates or into jobs, who need that, who need to understand this? How did that thought like come into your mind? And then how did you create that, pave the way forward for making everything?
It's very interesting. It's really interesting that you asked this, because this is how we are as a species, the human race, which I subscribe to and belong to. All of us, each one of you listeners has it innately in you that if you have discovered something, you want to share it, especially if it's beneficial to others, or if it's harmful to others, knowing that it's harmful is beneficial to others.
Correct.
And we often hold ourselves back because there is no reason to do that. We've got enough problems of our own. We're already busy being busy. But when you find that you're not busy anymore, and you're not busy being busy either, because you're very mindful of what you're busy about, and you make your time for the things that you have prioritized, you suddenly find that time is in abundance. In fact, Mansoor, for all of you who are hard pressed for time, let me say this. Time has existed before you're born, and time will exist after you're gone. Time does not even know that you exist. So there's nothing that you can do to manage or manipulate or utilize something that doesn't even acknowledge your existence.
Right.
The only thing that you can manage is what is inside of you, not something outside, which is time, not something outside, which is all those distractions, but what's inside. And what's inside of you, like we just said, is energy. Right. So when you manage your energy, you have all the time in the world. That's something that, again, was bugging me in my entrepreneurial days, because I was scaling up. And I was wondering, where does Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all these fellows, Azim Premji and Narayan Murthy, find the time for this?
Right.
And when I discovered, because I was so stressed with just what I had in my plate, which is probably, it would, if it scaled up maybe 2,000 times, it would probably become a $1 million company or something like that. So I don't know the maths, so I don't remember really. But it's a small 3-4 crore company. But when we're talking about these entrepreneurs, these billionaires, I found a parallel which is very interesting in people who have equal responsibility of as many people and therefore equal stress, but are operating on a different paradigm. And they are not business gurus, they are the spiritual gurus. The ones we talked about, the Sri Sri, or even the Mother Teresa, or the Nelson Mandelas or the Gandhis.
Right.
And they're operating with the same kind of stresses and the same kind of responsibilities for so many people. And what is it that both of them know, which I don't? And both of them are invested in energy, not in time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, because it made sense to me to discover more about what's inside us, I gravitated towards understanding what the Nelson Mandelas and the Gandhis of the world have discovered about energy, and how they use that inner power to just become those kind of leaders that they have become, had become, or people who follow them will continue becoming. And it's all a function of the energy. So that was why I said that anybody doesn't have to leave wherever they are. They just continue to do what they are. They do it in the awareness and with the inclination of moving towards discovering energy as much as they discover their body and the little cuts in the body. And as they discover that, they will find that that energy itself will drive them to their natural instinct and get them to find the time to share their messages. And then they have a message which we've compacted together in the form of renewalism, which can be shared with everybody.
So like when all the people, like even when Gautam Buddha was on the urge for like finding enlightenment, and even like I heard the story where Steve Jobs was also not doing that great, they left everything and they just set off on a journey. So when you are talking about finding inner peace, you're talking about energy or inner power or stuff like that. Why is it always necessary for one to like detach itself and then come back?
No, we said, they were explorers. I was an explorer also, but everybody need not be an explorer. Everybody can become a renewalist, which is about renewing the ancient Oriental wisdom and bringing it into the modern lifestyle. And bringing it into the modern lifestyle is when you are in the modern lifestyle, you continue doing what you're doing, right? So that's the message that we want to bring across, that you can be doing exactly what you're doing. And in fact, why I want to go back to corporate, I am going back now, is because that's where all the people who I left behind 15 years ago, who were stressed like that, or say, who had started on their stresses, are now in their midlife,
Right.
getting a lot more stress. I mean, the hospitals are filling up like crazy. So we can reverse through the process of the renewal, which is done exactly where you are, doing exactly what you're doing, but doing it a little differently.
Okay. So now after like we come up with the story of detachment, attachment, and everything. So we really want to know what is renewal about.
Thank you. I was wondering when you'd ask. No, I brought it up, and I'd like our listeners to know this, because this is the formula or the recipe or the methodology to do exactly what Mansoor has been asking me about, without moving out of your cubicle, without moving out of your work from home space, without moving out from your kitchen, without moving out from your study room, without moving out from wherever you are. Because it is a modality that works on your habits. Where do habits come from? They come from inside us.
Inside, right?
When we do things enough, it becomes so natural to us that whatever the consequences of what we do is, they fructify. So any state that you're in right now, rich, poor, happy, sad, blah, 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 is a consequence of what? Your habits. Because they have fructified in giving you the results. Now, if you want to change that state, let's say you want to be stress-free, let's say you want to be rich, abundant, whatever, what you got to change is not your resume. What you got to change is your habit.
Habits. Yeah.
The way you approach certain things. and results will be different. Renewalism bears out from the book Renewal, which has a byline which says your unexpected role in saving the planet. So this is not just for you, which is called self-renewal, but for all your relationships around with people, with money, and with the planet. And importantly, with the planet, because again, I go back to Gandhi. He said something very powerful, which many of us have not really understood. Be the change you want to see in the world. Now, what is this be the change you want to see in the world? You be means you change your habits to be a different person, which reflects into being what you want to see in everybody. So if you want to see end of corruption, well, be the change. Stop being corrupt.
Right.
Or stop enabling corruption. And that's how change happens. Now, what is corruption? It is a habit. It is just that we know that that can be done, so we can get away. We can shortcut the process. We can do X, Y, Z to get to the ends, regardless of the means. But when the means become the driver, then a habit changes, right? So, be the change you want to see in the world is all about changing the possibilities for the planet and saving the planet morally, environmentally, financially, and whichever other way. You're smarter than I am for understanding all those aspects of how the planet is degrading. But all of that can be changed because we change, you change, I change. And renewal is how we can set ourselves off on those habits, how easy it is to form them, what is the process, but that's a very small part of this. Importantly, what are the habits for self-renewal, for symbiotic renewal within teams, and for systemic renewal of the systems that stop serving us. But we've been so busy being busy that we haven't noticed.
So how does one actually like overcome this thing? As you're saying, habits. Let's say like we have a normal person who just like is into a 9 to 5. He wakes up in the morning, he has his the old start in life where he gets up in the morning, his breakfast, wife fights, things happen, he comes back to office, same things about, and then again he hears his boss scrapping over things, everything going on. And then he's like, ठीक है, life खत्म हो गई, यही चल रहा है, हम यही चलेंगे, catch the local, go home, do this. How does one imply or implement this particular part in their day-to-day lives?
You're asking me to go into the book. Well, why not? Of course. Just a moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy life as you go by. So, it starts with being mindful, which is another way of saying remembering what is it that you're doing and why is it that you're doing that. Remember about 10 minutes ago in the same conversation, we're talking about why do you do what you do, right?
Right.
So that is the question I asked myself. Is that the ends? Is that all that this is about? And when you start asking that, automatically the possibilities start opening. And this again is a scientific principle, which is about opening possibilities when you focus on them. Even the atomic particles, they move when you observe them.
Right.
So the principle of nature, the principle of the universe is that your possibilities will change as you start being mindful of what they are. And that's so exciting because suddenly you are not in the same mold. You've broken that mold. And now you're looking at different things. Now, the mind is very, very active. The mind is in the center of this body, mind, spirit, trinity. And it can work both ways. It can cloud up your energy and it can debilitate your body. The mind is, I often give this analogy for people to understand. Maybe it'll help you guys. Think of the mind like water. Chanchal, it moves. Right. It's very, very fluid. The same water is ice as the body. It's gross. You can't do much with it. And the same water is steam as energy. And you can't even see it. And if there is a steam just passing through and I walk through, I'm going to scald myself, not realizing it. That's what happens. When you start working with energy, you're actually working with the most powerful form of yourself. And that steam jet can boil the water. The steam jet can definitely heal the body. It can change the shape. Anything can be done. But you've got to know how to use the steam jets. And let's say they're low power steam jets, everything is nice. You have full control over them. Then also, if you're running the steam jet over a curtain of water, then the steam is just going to go away.
Yeah.
So controlling the mind, training the mind is where you start taking your mindfulness and where you start building your habits. And it's very nice that you talked about a guy who wakes up in the morning and then does whatever routine he does. The way to break or change a habit is to use a trigger point. And this book starts the same way when it starts on the part about self-renewal. Before that is the preamble about what is mindfulness and what is our connection with nature and all that stuff. It's actually not as boring as I'm probably making it sound, because it is a talk by a certain Guru Pranachandra in a setting of a family and stuff like that. So that people can connect with themselves, the family members are connecting, and so the readers are connecting as well into their own lives and how complex their lives are, and how just because of what Guru Pranachandra is talking about, the aspects of what he's saying can easily fall into place. So like, for instance, when he starts talking about the habits, the first one he talks about is how to charge yourself early in the morning. Now I see these 10 things about inner power and energy. These are actually 10 habits. I don't think we have the time to go into all of them, but I'll implore.
No, we already did. I think you're on the fourth one right now.
we are looking at waking up in the morning and doing something which is going to pump up our inner self. So where do we get all our power from? As we understand scientifically, we get it from our heart, we get it from our lungs, involuntarily, they just keep working from the time we're born. But what we know from ancient wisdom, which is now WhatsApp wisdom, is that the heart is connected to this point over here. The lung is connected to a point which goes down and connects with certain acupressure points. So you press this and you can avoid a heart attack, and I don't know what all comes on WhatsApp.
Like the nerve endings, yeah.
Sorry?
Like the nerve endings. I mean, you just told me the WhatsApp forward. I received one recently.
They're nerves.
Yeah, the nerve endings.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're not nerves. That's the point. There are nerves all over the place. These are energy channels.
Okay.
These channels are not nerves. You can't isolate a nerve like that. But what we have known since thousands of years is that there are, in Sanskrit they're called nadis, which in English are meridians, and Chinese also call them meridians. So in traditional Chinese medicine, CM, where acupressure, acupuncture come from, they have been now able to measure some bioelectricity along these channels. But the point is that when you use your breath in sync, the breath is the mind, the mind is all over the place. It's like the water, it's like volatile. But by training the mind, what you're doing is you're centering the mind in one place, which is what kind of meditation does, right? So the first thing that Guru Pranachandra talks about is that when you wake up in the morning, you've got this 5-minute snooze, right? You have a habit of pressing that snooze. If you don't have the habit of pressing the snooze, it's a very nice habit. You'll form it very fast because it's very gratifying, right? So in that 5 minute of snooze, while you are waking up, you can wake up, I don't know how many X more powerfully than you would normally just roll out of bed, and how energetic you would be. By doing what? By breathing in and stretching your fingers out like this, and breathing out and stretching them in consciously. So they are like your lung, stretch out, stretch in. And same with your feet, your toes, all this pedicure and all that expensive stuff. You don't need any pedicure. You just bring the soles of your feet open and then contract the soles of your feet.
Okay.
Do this maybe about 10 times slowly. And what you're doing is you're pumping up the heart and the lung and the liver and the entire internal organs, and saying a good morning to them. You're giving them that burst of energy just by consciously taking your attention to them. When we go to our offices, for those of us who are not working from home, we go down the corridor in the morning and groggily say, hi, good morning, have a nice day, hi. If we can say it to everybody outside, why can't we say it to everybody inside? We are an organization of organs inside, right?
Right, we do.
Wake up in the morning, say hello heart, hello lungs. And you do that by, just stretching your end of the pressure points, because they're all connected. And you breathe better, you oxygenate yourself better at a physical level, you feel calmer. Just breathing with the mind centered is going to make the mind calmer, and you're going to stop overthinking about all those terrible things that are going to happen to you during the course of the day. And you start healthy. Simple stuff like that. These are the real habits. So 10 of these, and whether it's 10 in the morning or 10 in the night, and you are at the same level of energy.
So can one even use this, like, if he's had a bad day, we were like, the thing has already happened. So is it the same procedure? So
Absolutely, absolutely.
When I'm sitting in the office, it's like the same thing to do, or is there another trick or another technique?
Just do this now, and your next question will be so different. Sitting in a negotiation under the table, you stop talking and let the other people do the talking, keep doing this, and you find the next thing you say is going to change the negotiation for you.
Okay.
Because you have pumped yourself with what? With energy.
Yeah, like anything can't be destroyed, neither be created, just transferred. So I think we're like indirectly just like
drawn it from the universe, taken it in,
right.
Using it.
And that's that.
Totally right.
Okay, coming back to renewal. So when this concept hit you, like, I need to do something on renewal. So is this like we have different theories and we have different things like minimalism, then we have I don't know, manifestation and all that. So would you say renewal is like a part of these two things, or it's something completely different?
Renewalism is what I see as a movement.
Okay.
It is like veganism has become a movement in the last decade, because we have got a little more conscious about our role in animal exploitation and their sustainability. I believe we can move from that to our own exploitation and our own sustainability. And that is going to happen with renewalism. So I'm aware that, I don't know if our listeners would be aware, but it seems that veganism took birth in the middle of the last century. And it's taken almost 70 years for it to become so popular. But the last decade made it a lot more popular because of the spread of social media and the Gen Z, which if you go with the karmic mind stream theory, then all the people who thought of veganism and kind of were early adopters have got a lot more concentrated in their next birth, which has happened as Gen Z. And they all died in the 90s after 40, 50 years of that movement, of that concept. And now it's become a movement in the last 10 years. Everybody's talking about it.
It has
So
become a major.
because of the Gen Z, because of their propensity to innovate and the voice that they have, they are a force to reckon with. And I see this going out in this decade to renew humankind with in a natural way with these habits, because they are implementable by each one of us. So that's the trajectory I'm looking at for renewal, and which is why there is no company, there is no business that we're running around this. It's a movement for which we're looking at collaborators, and we're looking at companies which are open enough to test it out, because we need those homogeneous environments which are having the same kind of people. We just see that there are certain people who are working with renewalism habits for whom sickness is down by 70%, absenteeism is down by a measurable number, engagement is up by say 63%, productivity is up by again some measurable numbers like that, Even though they are in the same environments, their team relationships are different. And why is that? Because their inner power is changing their outer reality. So if we can get more organizations on board testing this out for a period of 6 months, 6 months will give us enough empirical data to want to continue this and scale it up globally for each organization. But that is where we are, and we're looking at how we can collaborate with organizations that can take this message out, take these practices out, form little renewal clubs in communities which are again homogeneous, like even resident colonies and things like that, and get the world to start understanding that this movement changes our consciousness about ourselves, helps us ask our questions. So it's not that we're comparing this with anything else in the energy space, like abundance or manifestation or something like that. It is that we're giving everybody a platform and a methodology to use and propagate without wondering who's going to get the credit or who's going to make money out of this.
Mm-hmm. So how does one be a part of your community, the Renewalism?
Well, RENEWALism.com is a great place to start. Okay. And connecting with me, which also happens through the site on the page about the movement, is a great place to start dialogue on, okay, what are the next steps? You can pick up the book for free from the site on the page there. You can read a little in the look inside page. And if you don't want to pick it up for free because that's a PDF copy and you want a hard copy or something like that, you can pick it up from any of the leading portals, which are also linked from the site. So RENEWALism.com is a great place to start. I would love to have those conversations so that I can empower you and your teams, and we can do some real engagement in schools, colleges, as well as, of course, in corporates.
Mm-hmm. And what would the website be? It's going to be Sandeep Talks, right? SandeepTalks.com. Is it going to be that website?
No, this is RENEWALism.com. Okay. It is purely about the movement. SandeepTalks.com is because I'm a professional speaker and I am available for talks on subjects related to bringing out change in the corporate workplace, in organizations, through the change within. So
that segment is all for Sandeep Talks, and we have Renewalism for what's the website name again?
RENEWALism.
RENEWALism. Okay. .com. So that's for everything about renewal. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's where you.
Yeah. How did the concept come in mind? Like, Sandeep Talks and Renewalism. How did like if I have to relate, like if you know about Jay Shetty, he had this thing where he made something known as wisdom going viral. Like, and so how did this aspect come in your mind? I'll make something known as Sandeep Talks and then RENEWALism.com. How did that come up?
Well, Sandeep is my name and I talk for a living, so I talk.
Okay, that's.
But RENEWALism actually was an interesting thing because it obviously comes from renewal, and the idea of renewal came to me through an energy form which later identified itself as Guru Pranachandra, the one I was talking about, whose discourse this is all about. But suddenly it's a very interesting story. It was November 2019 when I was in Mexico. We had some time on hand, and my wife was redoing the house we have there. So we couldn't go out anywhere, travel and all that, which we love to do. So we just sitting over there. She was supervising the workers and stuff like that. I said, this is the time when I must write. And like you said, there was always, for the last 15 years, or at least for the last 10 years, that I've been practicing inner power. And for the last 7, 8 years that I've been teaching inner power subjects, Qigong and Reiki and all that, that I had this thing that let us see, there has to be some way of bringing this out to people in general. And so I said, okay, let's start writing. I didn't have a name for the book. And when I started writing, I had no idea, Mansoor, what is the next thing I'm going to be writing.
Okay.
And that is why I feel that this is a divine channeling that happened, because in the next 40 days straight, I had 240 pages of book ready. And it was ready in such a beautiful structure where you had in the second chapter, this Guru Pranachandra identifying himself. And then, every day, what he was saying and what I was transcribing, so to say, was making sense to me also. And then we had these chapters on self-renewal, and he in fact pointed out to me that NEW are the 3 basic tenets which we have to have oneness with. N being nature, E being empowerment as community, and W being wealth as in abundance. So when you are in oneness with nature, empowerment, and wealth, then you are new, you are always on. And since we are not always on right now, we have a need to renew, and so therefore renew. And then these habits for self-renewal, symbiotic renewal, and systemic renewal identified themselves. And very interestingly, when I was done writing in the end of December, it's around 2nd January, we moved on. I had some talks to deliver in Dubai and Bombay, and then I made my way back here. Wife came in a little later, and then suddenly she came in fact, on the day of the lockdowns, because there was no choice. If she didn't come, she couldn't come. And that's when I was editing the book while I was in these travels, and she was still in Mexico. And while I was editing, the lockdown started happening, and by the time she was back and we were actually into the lockdowns, I started seeing that stuff about systemic renewal, which had been written about 4 months ago, was what's happening. We were talking about online schooling, which is a habit. We were talking about the possibility of telecommuting, because that time nobody's commuting anywhere. Right. We're talking about how keeping our own habit of keeping our car inside. The government has been talking about odd days and even days for the cars to be on the road, but people are finding their ways around it. But when it's forced upon us and all the cars are inside, in a city like Delhi where I belong, for the first time in 15 years, I saw blue skies.
Right.
Who's changed the gray sky to blue? It's us and our habit.
It's us, right?
It's our habit of keeping that car indoors. And now our habit of telecommuting is creating this hybrid work. And I said, man, these are the kind of habits that we have in systemic renewal. Our habit of mindfulness of a mask can translate into our habit of everything else that we consume, which is about self-renewal. So we are capable of changing those habits when coronavirus forces them upon us. Why don't we look at changing them by design and therefore being stress-free? Because the entire stress of, let's say, online schooling has come because the teachers didn't have the laptops, they didn't have the Wi-Fi, kids didn't have that human connection anymore. But now they kind of in the hybrid world are bringing that in. And that's the way that we could have done it by design if we had followed renewal habits. So that's what got me to get this book out ASAP. And it got great acclaim from all quarters of the world, from Australia to America to all over Europe. And we got the 2nd edition out of the book in 2021. on popular demand. And we also had a foreword by a Qigong grandmaster who's a mentor of mine.
Okay.
And he wrote a beautiful foreword for it. So what's available on all leading portals nowadays is the second edition, and that's what you can download as a PDF from RENEWALism.com. So all the story is to tell you that the word renewal and the whole concept came from energy itself, identified as Guru Pranachandra. Makes sense because NEW are the three constructs we've got to be in oneness with, and lent itself so beautifully in the current circumstance where we're looking at how do we renew ourselves after this pandemic, and how do we not regress to our old habits and actually take the world on a different trajectory. So this is the time to do it.
Definitely. So now talking about the first edition and the second edition, now for the viewers who will be going to see the book, even I will be checking out this book. So what's the difference between the first this thing and the second edition?
Only the foreword, which is so precious, coming from my mentor, and
Okay.
the acclaim, because all that came after people started reading the book.
Okay, and it's how many pages the book is?
It's about 240 pages.
240 pages. So
Yeah.
approximately how many hours to read the entire book, if you have to put it in price?
Or whether you're a student of speed reading or not. But it's not a book to be read to finish. It's a book to be read to apply. And so I would just say that if you budget 10 minutes a day, you would do a chapter a day, a habit a day. And maybe that would mean it would take you the entire month to wade through the book. But you would, as you do read the habit, do it. The next morning, you wake up with your snooze button. And then it grows on you, because then the next day you have two habits. And the second habit follows the first one. So it's kind of sequential, at least in self-renewal, it's very sequential. Till the time you go to sleep, what are the things that you can do to sleep better? So because the sleep cycle is so important to wake up right, to conserve your energy. What happens when we sleep is we bring our energy back. What happens during the day is we give our energy out. So if you're not bringing it back, you don't have enough to give out. If you don't have enough to give out, you get totally stressed. So
you're
all of that.
Okay, so you're suggesting 10 minutes a day for reading through it and then implementing the habit, and it's going to take a month to complete. But again, it's about you implementing everything, not reading the book to finish it.
Yep.
Right. So those are the tips ways of reading Renewal. Okay, the last question for the professional part, and then we'll be heading to the personal. So when you took this concept, to the firms, the corporate world and everything, what was their idea and take on it? Obviously you're just a person with all this gyan, you're just putting in front of them. How did they react to this particular part?
Pretty similar to the way you reacted, Mansoor. What is the spirituality business? Yes, and stuff like that. But it is so simple. I hope our listeners thought it was simple to understand the body, mind, spirit trinity, and how we actually we look at it as a pyramid, and it works as a reverse pyramid, but let's look at it in uniformity as equal parts. And just to make it equal, we have to give a lot more impetus on our energy, and we can give impetus to energy by being mindful. And we, as a consequence of being mindful, can get into those habits. Simple. And once that trajectory is understood, it's just a question of, like you just said, implementing it. So we are in the process of implementing this at various companies, and we're looking at least 6 months for sustainability.
Okay.
So start seeing empirical data and results.
So currently, what kind of organizations are right now collaborated with you in Renewal?
Great question. I'm looking at organizations from 2 points of view. One, the word collaboration that you use are organizations that already have outreach, B2B relationships with companies, where the CEOs, the board of directors are listening to them, because they would know which are the CEOs who are grappling with issues of productivity, engagement, purpose, absenteeism, sickness, teams being stressed out, and how therefore when you know that they feel the problem, then your human instinct of giving them a solution arises. And because you collaborated with RENEWALism, you just take Sandeep Nath into the organization, get them to empower the leadership and put it on a self-sustaining mode. The second, so this is any organization that is dealing with, has B2B relationships and dealing with at the level of the CEO and the board of directors. This is a culture that we're talking about. This is not a checkbox item for L&D or HR.
Right.
We're talking about building a culture where the organization is fueling its own productivity and getting itself to be more efficient and have a better throughput and a better bottom line, obviously, as a consequence, because of the way that the people behave. Putting people at center, aligning people, purpose, and process. Now, again, I just, before I move to the other audience, tell you a little about people, purpose, and process, because it's relevant here. These are the 3 P's of the lean management system, but they're also, if you look at it and think about it, people are the body of the organization.
Right.
Processes are the mind of the organization. And purpose is the spirit of the organization. Why does the organization exist? So when we talk about body, mind, and spirit, alignment of that is the alignment of people, process, and purpose. Side note over, something that we got to discuss a lot more in detail on a one-on-one basis if you are looking at doing this in your organization. And that's the second set. The second set of organizations which are directly, I mean, you can talk to me directly to say that let's have a talk by you to our team leaders and above to sensitize them on kind of like Mansoor used the word gyan, and how that's simplified and how it can be brought into daily practices. And maybe we form a renewal club within the organization, and that club has a few people, obviously not 100% are going to attend everything, but the ones who do and who sustain through a period of 6 months because they just feel the results worthwhile would, as a consequence, exhibit those improved parameters of productivity, effectiveness, efficiency, engagement, and all of that. And reduced absenteeism, reduced sickness. So we have an overall tangible change in performance. And when we can see those things happening here, then we know how to carry them forward to the rest of the team, to carry them forward to other aspects of your organization globally. So again, that's why we're looking at organizations which are in the range of 30 to 1,000 employees.
Okay, 30 to 1,000.
While that's a manageable number, 30 is a good number to get onto a Zoom conversation and still have engagement. More than that, we break it up into multiple Zoom conversations over multiple days. And 1,000 is what I'd say is a top number right now, while we are building the empirical data and we're building teams of leadership who will take on the movement and take on the checks and mechanisms for the renewal habits to be sustainable. So also these organizations would be, financially in that sweet spot where implementing something like that would be directly the call of the CEO or a CXO level call. And so the buy-in is already there and the implementation happens without a long gestation period. Eventually, once we have data, then we can go to organizations where the gestation is higher than multiple layers and stuff like that. But we'd like organizations like that. We'd like organizations which are in the IT sector or in insurance or BFSI and medical, because those are the high stress environments, those are cubicle environments where they're very disconnected from nature. Oneness with nature is the end of renewal, right? And when empowerment is so important and customer service is so important, and because the receptionist doesn't know how to behave, the customer is lost, even though the general manager sales is God's gift to humanity, right? So how do the receptionists get the same energy as the general manager sales? Well, that's something that happens only energetically. It doesn't happen by any other mental or physical means. I hope definitely not through physical means. So, transference of that energy across organizations is what we're kind of going to be looking at happening. And we could look at Yeah, those are kind of sectors. Again, the third, the end, the empowerment and the wealth, the abundance, of course, that every individual wants it for themselves. So the oneness with that will naturally come in as they go through the processes, the habits.
That's fair. Just to add on one more question to that part, and then we'll end it and we'll head to the personal. Do you have anything like a case study to share where you have implemented all this and there have been results?
I would answer that on the next interview we do together. Right now, insanity, the test cases we're not able to talk about, and we have not implemented this for a long enough period to have the kind of data that we do.
Okay. All right, not a problem. Okay, then we move on now to the personal questions. Okay. All right. So Sandeep, how is your like educational background been? And as you said, you've been an entrepreneur, and then you headed on to spirituality, and then RENEWALism was born. How has the journey been? How has this affected your personal life in a way?
So I'm from India, and I'm the epitome of a very good Indian kid who does his engineering from IIT and his management from IIM, who gets a good job, who starts becoming a disgrace to the family because he quits the job, and starts becoming a risk to the family because he becomes an entrepreneur, and then gets everything sorted out because he becomes successful. So that's where I was. But then that success came with that feeling of hollowness I described earlier, and that then led to the whole process which we talked about, which leads to renewal. But I'm that normal Indian kid with a good education and successful corporate background. And I'm sorry, what was your question again?
How's the journey? It's like, how's the journey been? Like, as you
said, journey for sure. Like in the professional sector itself, you captured my personal journey. I'm having a great life, traveling the world. I got into all that. Manifestation is the word you used some time back, because of being in abundance, because of the discovery of inner power, because of energy, because of the connection that I started making with myself by going with it. And that manifestation, just to give you a comparison, let's say from the time that I graduated out of college to 2010, which was actually a good 20 years, I may have done 5 foreign trips, which were all in Asia.
Okay.
And between 2016, when I stopped working with villages, and 2020, before the lockdown, I did more than 30 countries. Okay. So how does all that travel happen? Not because I robbed a bank, not because I was making that good money. I mean, a 3-4 crore company does generate decent money, and especially when you're in consulting and communications. But because I got my priorities right, and I sort of was available to myself.
Okay.
Being available to yourself. Good point there.
So let's talk about the second part of the personal journey. So when you went to your directors and you told them like it's over and everything, like I mean not over, sorry, wrong word. So you're going to look after the company when I'm out. And how was the reaction to them? Like I bet like they maybe known you personally also as like professionally. So what was their personal
thing coming anyway? They knew it was coming.
So what was their reaction like? Did any of them come personally and tell you like, "Bhai, tu kar raha kya hai?" Something like that? Did anyone give you any?
Not my directors, because they knew me well enough to know मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ. But definitely all other friends and family, and they still do, yeah. Despite this stark change in lifestyle and this stark visibility of being a global citizen and international speaker, and the huge changes that healing works and energy manifestations have produced for people around, friends and family still wonder how do I talk to this guy? I mean, like, what does he do? He's not an engineer. He's not a corporate person. Like, what do I do? So that still happens, and that's part of the thing, that you got to be aware that that is how it is, and that awareness just takes you away from any need to react or respond. You just know that that's how they are, and if you can help them understand that this change is putting you and can put them potentially in a greater oneness with nature, wealth, and abundance and empowerment, then that's great for them. If you can't, you just hand the book over to them and they might read through it.
Beautiful. Okay, and okay, who has been your biggest supporter, like since graduation till renewalism, your biggest supporter in life?
Okay, so I have two great supporters. One is my mom, who has supported me from before I was born. In fact, the dedication in this book is to her, and the story about why I say about the womb is also as part of the dedication. So I'm not going to tell you that because you can read the book. The dedication is on RENEWALism.com also, so you don't have to buy the book or even download the PDF. You just go to look inside and you got the dedication there. But apart from mom, it's my wife who's been a pillar in being with me in this journey of understanding abundance and driving me in that direction of thinking outside and globally. And like I said, she was doing all the hard work when I was sitting and writing 240 pages even in November. She's a meditation master and a mindfulness coach herself, and that really makes it very easy for us to sort of blend the energies and move forward.
Fair enough on that. You have your mom and your wife as your biggest supporters.
Well, since you asked me to single out people, because my dad had been my best student and my best recipient of energy, and probably the best case study I have.
Okay. If you have to describe Sandeep Nath in a sentence, what would that sentence be?
I would. What I teach people is, how to get to your purpose, and I would describe myself in my own line of purpose that I am here to help people connect with their inner power to enjoy stress-free living forever. That's why I'm here, and that's how I think I would like to be described.
Fair enough. Okay, so there's this last personal question, and then we'll hop on to the rapid fire. Okay.
Oh, this wasn't rapid fire. I was thinking.
No, this wasn't rapid fire. Okay. So let's go to the last question. Okay. Well, let's say like when things are at its end, when you're like, okay, it's done for me, or like the retirement comes in for you, or you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. What is the action plan after retirement for you?
Well, there is no retirement when you're already retired. So I am retired. What are you talking about? But to answer this question meaningfully for anybody who's contemplating retirement, please understand that retirement does not mean that you stop doing things. Retirement only means that you start applying your own volition in what you're doing a lot more. You are more connected with yourself, and therefore you are doing what gives you the greatest satisfaction, greatest happiness. And I would prioritize experiencing that state of retirement every day for even 10 or 20 minutes a day, maybe not more than 20 minutes, but do what you love to do. And you are actually preparing yourself for whether that really is what you want to do 24/7. So dedicating those 20 minutes is going to give you that energy that when you place it on a high priority, that makes your heart happy. And that happiness of the heart makes happiness of your work a lot more real and alive. So you would work better, you work more efficiently because you're prioritizing the happy heart, which comes from your retirement plan. And what the fringe benefit of that is you actually have a retirement plan. I have so many people like my own father who didn't have a retirement plan. He got out of the railways and he didn't know what to do. So that is a challenge of purpose. And there are statistics about the number of people who have a heart failure within 6 years of retirement, and it's a obnoxiously large number. The normal curve suddenly spikes up at that age, because for 3, 4, 5 years you can deal with a sense of lack of purpose, but beyond that, no. So in the first 6 years you just pop it off because you have no purpose. So you start building your purpose through your priorities right from the beginning. I did.
That's a deep insight. Actually, like for a split second, I started thinking, okay, I'm talking about retirement. I need to start thinking about my priorities. Okay, so that comes to the end of the personal questions. Now we'll come to the rapid fire, or choose one, take one. Okay. So this is again no wrong, no right answer. It basically depends on your personal choice. Okay. There are not going to be any awkward questions. Don't worry. This is going to be normal, basic ones. Okay. So let's say family time or meditation.
Let's say family time. And I know this is rapid fire, but I feel I can share a point here. And I am going to borrow the point from Sri Ravi Shankar, who said it to me 15, 17 years ago when I didn't understand anything of what he said. He said, somebody asked him the same question, Guruji, how many hours do you meditate? And he said, I'm always meditating. No, all the time. The way he says, all the time. I don't understand anything. What does he mean all the time? But truly, when you understand, then meditation is being in awareness. That's all. It's a 3-word definition I have for you for meditation, which I understood many, many years after Sri said it for the first time. I am in awareness as I listen to your rapid fire question. You're probably in awareness because you're listening to me and doing nothing else right now. But how often do you stay in that state of awareness with all these outer distractions? Not very often. So I prioritize better with people. Sorry, I'm giving a lot of gyan where
it's absolutely fine.
But you would really see your relationships change with family when you're actually meditating while you talk, because you're being in awareness as you talk, as you listen, as you laugh, as you do things together, as you cook, as you clean, as you do whatever. It's a family time. I'm going to be shorter.
Okay. Talking about renewal or talking to your mom?
Talking about renewalism.
Okay. All right, that's right. So you would like to give another pointer to that? Why?
Now you asked for it. Well, with mom, there's a certain energy which does not need so much of talking.
Okay.
So just being with her is enough. But I'm not a very talkative person. I mean, I know you talked about sandeeptalks.com, but my wife often jokes about that, that you don't talk to me as much. How do you call yourself a speaker? So when I speak about renewalism.
Okay.
Hence.
It's like, it's funny, it's like, in front of your family, it's like, I don't talk much. And they also have this concept in their head and they think, Bhai, banda kar raha kya? How is he talking outside?
Yeah.
I can remember.
And then he advertises himself as SandeepTalks.com.
Okay, so the last question, okay. This one, let's say it's like a normal one only, but let's see what you choose. Okay. Okay. So it's traveling abroad. Okay. It's traveling abroad alone or traveling abroad with your whole gang of groups who have understood renewal. Like we could call them your disciples. What would you choose?
I would choose alone. I would
Okay.
recommend all the disciples, although that's not a word that we use, but all the followers of renewalism, all renewalists, to also look at journeys with themselves, because the biggest travel, I was hoping your question is going to be traveling abroad or traveling inside. So I would have said traveling inside. But but it's about what you experience out of your travel abroad. You're not traveling to influence anybody. You're traveling to soak in different cultures, to soak in different perspectives, and that adds to your own repertoire of how you can grow within, and then when you are on the right stage, influence.
Definitely.
I'd like to travel with my wife, solo with her.
It's like traveling from Yes. All right. Sandeep, thank you very much for being a part of the coffee conversation today. It was a lovely pleasure talking to you.
Yes, to that. I truly enjoyed myself, Mansoor. You have a great way of asking questions, and it's so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hoping to see you soon on the next coffee conversation too. And that time, hopefully, you'll give us more insights about your book. And I will definitely read that book, and then I'll come whole and solely prepared.
Not only that, I hope by that time you're going to tell the audience about the case studies, because they're coming through the TEIF fraternity.
Definitely. All right. So have a good day. Bye. Take care.